jury is away deliberating.
Yes.
The closing argument from Sam Bankman-Fried's attorney was that he has been painted, unjustifiably so, as a villain. And Bloomberg has this piece today that there were 6 opportunities where he was given a choice, tell the truth or double down. And the prosecution says he doubled down. What do you make of all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence is incredibly compelling. It seemed that every time Sam got in trouble, instead of confronting that trouble, he was like a gambler in Vegas and ended up doubling down again. And unfortunately, he was apparently getting that money from customer funds. So, you know, very interesting, I think, a dramatic trial. I'm very curious to see what verdict the jury returns. It sounds like some speculate that could happen even as soon as today. But, you know, I think from the crypto industry perspective, we're very eager to see this chapter closed. We feel like people are unfairly conflating the entire industry with one man and one company, when really this is a story about a crook, not a story about crypto. And so we're excited to move forward. But yes, certainly been an entertaining and interesting trial, something I think they'll make movies on.
Well, this is very much an innocent until proven guilty situation. It is a jury trial, after all. But in the event of either outcome, has this series been damaging to the goals of the Blockchain Association? Because you essentially want the underlying technology that supports crypto to be mainstream globally.
Yes, absolutely. And we're trying to get public policymakers in Washington to understand the technology so that we can get the appropriate regulatory framework in place. And I think absolutely without question, this case and this trial has been damaging to the industry. I think the good news, though, is in the past year since these events went down, we have seen leaders across the crypto industry from other leading companies. We've seen entrepreneurs. We've seen individual members of the community. They've really taken an interest in working in Washington and talking with policymakers. And so what used to be just sort of Sam Bankman-Fried going around and taking up a lot of the time, that has been replaced with a much broader, more diverse set of individuals in the crypto ecosystem, and those that actually have the right values, that are building things, that believe in the power of decentralization, and they aren't just here to make a bunch of money so they can give it away. At least that's Sam's stated motive.
Some of the voices then are now speaking to regulators. Well, one of them might be over at PayPal at the moment. We understand, of course, that the SEC is looking into their view on stablecoins in particular. How are you seeing that sort of discussion bear out at the moment? We know that Gary Gensler is pretty, well, cynical, shall we say, about the space. But what are the other people in the room at the moment saying?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question, Caroline. I mean, we don't know a whole lot about what the SEC is asking PayPal about its new stablecoin business, only that they are asking questions. So it's a little bit unclear. You know, typically, the SEC does not have jurisdiction over stablecoins because stablecoins are not securities. But we are seeing right now is a lot of discussion on Capitol Hill about what is the right regulatory framework for stablecoins. Both in the Trump administration and in the Biden administration, we had reports from the president's working group that recommended ideas for a regulatory framework. This summer, we saw Patrick McHenry pass a bill through his committee that would provide a regulatory framework for stablecoins. And I do think there's a very good chance that before, perhaps not the end of this year, but before the end of this Congress, that we do see stablecoin legislation move forward, because this is an issue that everyone agrees needs to be addressed. But it's not the role of Gary Gensler to regulate stablecoins. He's a securities regulator, and stablecoins are not securities.
Well, he'll debate that. The CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau, also overlooking these sorts of movements from big companies towards accessing crypto at large by a consumer base. What about the ETFs conversation as well? I mean, ultimately, that's what's sort of been driving Bitcoin, the OG of the crypto space. Yeah. Are we anticipating as soon as this end of this year that we will get a spot Bitcoin ETF? And how much do you think that will be liked or loathed when we still have this slightly cloud over the whole space?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're already starting to see some price action in the markets on anticipation of a Bitcoin ETF. You know, we had a very important moment over the summer where the SEC lost a case that it acted in an arbitrary and capricious manner by not moving forward with a spot Bitcoin ETF, much thanks to Grayscale and their legal team for all of the hard work that they put in to get that ruling. And so I think what we have now are multiple applications. These applications have deadlines where the SEC has an opportunity to extend them, but most of these deadlines are coming up in January. So I think it's highly likely in the next couple of months that we will get a spot Bitcoin ETF approved, and I think that there are a lot of investors that are eager to be able to access exposure to Bitcoin through their typical brokerage platform.
There was one tangible example of blockchain technology used out of London this morning, HSBC. Frankly, one of the biggest bullion banks in the world, using distributed ledger, to prove that tokenizing ownership of gold works. Did you see that? And if so, how does that make you feel as a real-world example?
I didn't see that particular story, but I know there are a lot of people looking right now to figure out how can we tie these real-world assets to blockchains, because they can be an incredibly efficient way for tracking information. And so the key kind of becomes, how do you connect that asset, the digital asset, to the real-world asset? But there are a lot of people that are exploring this place right now, and I think there are a lot of opportunities for upgrading the infrastructure, for tracking a lot of things we do in the traditional investment space.